So, let's see. Who are we talking to? Drumkowski and Dustin and I were just talking in the Component.Studio chat, and Drumkowski had a problem. Dustin has a different solution, which we'll also talk about. What the heck am I looking for here? I want Component.Studio, so I want this. So anyway, let's show what was here, and then we'll go with what I did. So what he's trying to do is these little icons down here in the corner. He wants these numbers to line up with them, but also that they should go away if there was a value of 0. They should just disappear. And so I did this in kind of a programmery way, which is probably overkill. And Dustin came up with a much more elegant way, but we'll show both of them here. So let's talk about my way. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn off his icons. I went in here to set up, or I created these 5 layer groups here, and in setup, I'm using this as a little spot to put in a bunch of code. And the reason I did this is because there's a timing issue. If you're trying to work with layer groups, all the layer groups are ordered. Are rendered in order first, and then all of the layers are laid into the layer groups. So you cannot reference a layer. You cannot reference stuff that happens in layers in layer groups unless you want weird time travel-y stuff to happen. So here's what I did. I said, here's what your icon width is. Here's what your how much space you want between each icon. And then I found out how many icons actually are going to have content on this image. So I'm doing a 1 if it's going to have content, or a 0 if it's not. And that's because you can have numbers in here. You have them, I think it's 1 through 3, or I'm sorry, 0 through 3. Is that right?
Yeah, it could be any number above 0.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to turn any number above 0 into a 1, and otherwise it goes into a 0. So anyway, that's what this is doing. And then I get the width of that total thing. So, how much width is taken up by spacing? There's 1 less space than there are icons. And then how much width is taken up by the icons themselves. That's this part. And then finally, I subtract this whole value, loot width, from the safe width of the design. So from this blue line to this blue line over here, I subtract the width of all the icons and the spaces in there. I know that's really complicated, but that's what I did. Like I said, I did a programmery thing. I did the same kind of thing for the Y value, except that here we only need to know the icon height and where are we positioning Y. And the reason you need to know that is because, let's turn on this first one, we want to position Y here. So the cool thing is about setting these icon values like I did, we could change the height of the icons, for example, like so, and then it all just magically continues to work, basically. So that's the thing there. And if you wanted to change like the spacing between your icons to, let's say, 30 pixels, boom. Now it's automatically moving over so that there's enough gap between each icon to have 30 pixels between each icon. Make sense?
That's awesome.
All right. So then, if what I went through and did, I set up all of your icons, a layer for each icon, and each icon basically does one little specialty thing. It gets its width and height from those variables that we set before. Width and height from the variables we set before, back down in here. So that's how it's automatically changing. If I change the width of these icons down here, and I say all of these, oops, I went in the wrong, what am I looking for here? Loot medical, I need to go down to loot setup. Here we go. So if I change all the icons to 139 pixels wide, I don't have the icons themselves actually stretching, but you can see what's going on there. If I set those numbers, it's automatically changing it in all of them, and that's because I've actually used that variable here. So then we could actually make those icons stretch too if you really wanted to. But then in each group, so we don't actually have to look at the individual icons or numbers themselves, because there's really nothing set in here other than the width and height of those things. But those are the same on every single icon. The real magic happens in the group position on each of these. So if you look, the group position is getting smaller or getting larger each time. X, I'm adding to loot X, I am adding the current width of loot X plus an icon width plus a spacing width. So it's just adding doom 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 to each one. So as we go up, this is getting further and further down. It's the same formula. It's just adding one more space for each icon. Oh, and I just realized that I didn't change your munitions. So we should change this to munitions. Munitions. So there's your text for munitions. And then if we go to the icons for munitions, we go to, boom, there. So now it's actually showing the right icon and the right text for munitions. But anyway, the point is that we're basically doing a little bit of setup over here. Well, maybe really a lot of setup. I wrote a bunch of different little pieces of code that generate these widths and spaces and all of that kind of stuff. And then we're just using that code on each of the individual layer groups to calculate the position of the layer groups. And then the icons and stuff inside there, we don't need to position those because we're positioning the layer groups. So that's how I designed it. Does that make, I mean, I know it's a lot, but in general, does it make sense to you?
Yeah, I follow the logic there.
Okay.
That's cool.
So with that, why don't we talk about Dustin's idea? So Dustin, do you want to talk about your ingenious idea, or should I do it?
I mean, it's fine. All I really did was I took all the sections that we wanted and put them in their own layer group so that we could have an image and the text line up, and then we could take each one of those and then base it on where the last icon was in the design using that layer left function. And so I just grabbed the one that should come before it and use that as the left X for each of the layer groups. And then it all just nicely condenses down as you don't have entries in there.
Yeah. So basically on this first one, the layer left position is 0, as you can see here. And then when you go up to the next one, you're saying layer left ammo. If the row for medical is greater than 0, then we're going to use the layer left of ammo. And then if we go up to food, I'm guessing you must be doing this twice, right? Medical. So you're doing this. So what happens if you don't have a medical? I
thought about that, but it just worked. I don't know.
Interesting. I wonder why it works.
Oh, maybe it doesn't.
Text.
It's row data. No, it's fine.
Layer left type image. So you're actually putting in the layer left here. Type image 3. What is type image 3? Oh, here. That's this. Oh, you're just saying you want the text to be lined up with the image. That's all you're saying there. All right, I get it.
Yeah, if I have a food and ammo, then it overlaps. So there's a little bit of logic breakdown there, but
well, it would work. It's just that the version that you have created is cool if you don't have a lot of layers or a lot of these things, because what's going to have to happen in order to make this work, it's a brilliant idea. I like the way you're doing it. What's going to have to happen though is for each subsequent one, it's going to get a little bit longer. The if
Right.
condition up there. So this first one for the left is just going to be 0. The next one is going to be what you have it here is going to be layer left. If row medical 0, else whatever. But then what you're going to have to do when you come up to this one is you're going to have to repeat everything that happened in this one down here in this one, and then add your extra stuff into it.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep. For
So
sure.
so if you go out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers deep, this is going to get really long here because you're going to add one if condition for every layer that came before it,
Yep.
or layer group that came before it, I should say.
And with this, can you still adjust the padding either by adding like a plus or minus 10 pixels or something in there, or would you do that via styles?
This one, the padding isn't. I mean, the spacing is. He's just using the left position, so it's not really going to add. It's not really going to add padding. You would have to add padding to this manually, or you could build in a variable like I did in mine. You could set up a variable down here and then use it over and over again, so that way it would always inherit the pad or the whatever padding that you added to it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So you could still use his method, but then just use my one piece of my method so that you can have your own padding values. The reason I like this mechanism is because it's very programmable. So it works the same no matter how many of these that we have to add. It doesn't get more and more code. But Dustin's way is really elegant, and it's better if you're doing something short. If you only have a few of these to do, because my way has all of this setup code. And so in order to get that setup code to pay off, you want to have lots of them. And you told me, you have 4 right now, but you were going to have a 5th one potentially in the future.
Yeah.
So this sets it up so that you can add more and more to it.
Yeah. No, this is really cool. I think being able to have a lot more is great, even though there probably won't be more than 2 or 3 on a card at a given time. But having more options to, swap in and out is really cool.
So anyway, 2 different ways to solve the same problem. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the help, both of you.
Have a good night.
You too.